Hello, everybody. My name is Mark Potts, and I'll be your host today for our podcast, Skyward Data. Our guest today is Sravan Kasarla, who has been a chief data officer and analytics officer at a few companies, to name a couple, Fidelity and Thrivent. Thank you very much, Sravan, for joining us today. Maybe you want to provide a little bit more background on how you've, your journey and how you've accomplished so much to become chief data officer at both Thrivent and Fidelity.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Skyward Data, to give me this opportunity. So, Mark, I think one thing that I want to make sure everybody knows about is I've been a passionate data leader for now 20 plus years. So my journey, I've been fortunate to be associated with many Fortune 500 companies to lead data and analytics. So now for the last several years with AI as well. But my goal has been not just because I like data or I like technology behind that or I like the fun things that it can do. It's all about really powering business outcomes and experiences with strong data foundation and actionable insights. That's been my let's call it my strategy, my mantra in the past, at least in the past two, which is about 12 plus years of period from Fidelity, where I got that opportunity to really experience that across several parts of Fidelity with as diverse and as large Fidelity has been. And as technology forward, as progressive and forward-thinking organization, got a chance to both provide that, but also learn from a lot of the peer data leaders who ran each major business unit's data. And Thrivent, I definitely got that opportunity to further that and then take that vision of really driving outcomes and experiences. So we could definitely talk more details as we move forward.
No, that's great. That's great. And I mean, you mentioned 12 years, with, data and analytics. Did your career start 12 years ago in data analytics? Or, I mean, you mentioned it also that you kind of had this passion from day one, right? So, I mean, I love to, hear journeys, right, where some people started off as, an analyst or accountant, and they found themselves gravitated towards, the data and analytics pieces of, creating spreadsheets that grew into this larger role, right? I'm not saying that's your journey, but I'd love to hear how you actually got into the data and analytics.
Yeah, no, I think I need to probably state that fact, right? I mean, maybe restate that fact. No, 25 years of data world, but the leadership at enterprise level started in the last 12 years or even before that, but I was talking about more broader roles, being able to really broadly impact data and analytics, some kind of a data science or machine learning, even that kind of a breadth has been happening over the last 12 years. So go back a little bit is I think I initially, I'm a mechanical engineer by education. And then I decided after I took an engineering opportunity and then said, I want to do something different than that. And then I joined MBA and did marketing. And marketing, I was very fascinated. Now I can connect why. I mean, I was not sure why I want to go and create on the creative side of marketing. I'm not creative. I'm more analytical. I'm more problem solving, but not creative. And I did work in field sales a little bit and marketing combinations for a couple of years. And then I figured, that's when I needed to say, I do need to do something different, not this for living, but this should be part of what I should be enabling. So I got an opportunity to get into technology or IT at that point. Initially, a little bit of programming on the, if our viewers would know, I'm dating myself, Power Builder. I don't know if many people even know about that. Sybase had that. And Oracle, right? I mean, Power Builder as a front end and Oracle as a back end. That's how I started off. I think in the early part of the career, after 3 years, I started getting more and more fascinated with the databases. So that's when I started off more into the database world to data architecture to more now expanding my role from there to data engineering and business intelligence and AI and everything. So yes, the The experience within the data space has been about 25 years, but more broader leadership role started at MassMutual back in 2009.
We come from a similar background. I started my education as a mechanical engineer, and then within about 2 semesters, I realized I was a better mechanic than a mechanical engineer, and we had started, doing some C and some C++ programming. So I made the switch over to computer science, right, shortly after that. So, all right. So you think about, one of the things that you've already touched on, right, is the impact that data and analytics can have on the business, right? Are there some use cases that jump to mind that you can think of, right, in your career that, have really impacted your company's business, right? In any of the companies you've worked for, right? That have driven either better revenue or cost savings, whatever it might be, right? I think those are very valuable to our listeners.
Got it. I think there are, from the past 3 companies, I will take examples of, well, obviously I'm not going to be able to share some very proprietary information of these companies. I have to respect the company's confidentiality. But I think early on, MassMutual is where I started really connecting the data to the business needs. See, until that point, yes, I was managing it, but mainly I was managing data environments. I was establishing data warehouses. I know how they're used, but I was not really close enough to see the impact or drive the impact or influence the usage and impact of the data. MassMutual is where I got an opportunity to. The customer experience transformation was going on, and the whole company wanted to move more from product-centric organization and the agent-driven organization to more customer-centric organization. Again, the recognition was there that by becoming more holistic customer relationship that the MassMutual as an organization can do, not just only advisors and agents having that relationship with the clients, would actually indeed both deliver much better financial security for their clients, but at the same time, it will increase the business for the company from engaged customers. So that gave me an opportunity to start enabling a data analytic capability. So in this case, very much a data capability of master data management for customer. Yes, there was a party database. Of course, everybody had a customer file, even dating back to whenever, right? Whenever the business started, people started writing it down as their customers to now expand their businesses. So there was already a customer database called party database or something like that. But at the same time, each business, each function had, some functions used it, some of them did not use it, and all of this was going on. Because you need to now get a holistic view about what customer has the relationship with the company, now you needed to collaborate. And that's where I directly saw being able to both analyze that and work with several of other leaders to really make sure that the business leadership understands there is a need to invest in establishing that capability and master data management capability. And we decided to go with more of a package solution rather than in-house built. And that's where I saw that. I've not been able to not be there for the entire time that entire implementation was complete, but what was attributed and what I followed up afterwards is clearly it did definitely start bringing more revenue. You could attribute revenue to that because there is a much better cross-sell and upsell opportunity identified that gave both advisors to now have a better conversations. Every agent, some agents are wonderful. They know it. They don't need these systems to tell them because they know their clients so well that they can actually offer that. But it was helping a lot more of that. And then within the customer experience and customer service side. So that's the tangible benefit. I got recognized for really creating that strategy and driving that implementation from Information Management Magazine back in those days, like the top 25 information managers. The reason simply I say it is they saw that connection that this is a direct enablement of business. Fidelity, there have been several. Some of them I was able to do. So one thing is the more of a data science platform, a platform of experimentation that we needed to create for the organization, even though a couple of business units were well advanced in their advanced analytics, but most of the organization wasn't. So what we did is, instead of every unit and every data scientist attempting to create a platform and a set of tools, and then trying to stitch them together to become a platform, we created actually a platform, data science platform, almost data science in a box. Yes, Amazon and everybody else came several years later with the holistic data science stack and the ML stack, but the concept was really bringing back then with Hadoop as the underpinning, and then there are tools that which can provide both a lightweight ELT capability and also data preparation capability. On top of that, put the Power BI, not Power BI, but Tableau and a few other visualization options, but also provide Python notebooks. I mean, really the notebooks that they can actually start now modeling. And then we went from there to offer the data as a service also on top of that, only for data science and advanced analytics one. So all the publicly available data, we brought it in already into this platform. So it's tools, platform, and some startup data is already there. And some of the data, even though it was paid for data, but if it is the enterprise shared data, we brought it into this platform. So I see that the reason I'm saying some of the details about that is that enabled a much faster experimentation. That enabled the mutual fund organization to really go and look at Glassdoor data and some of the jobs data and economic data to combine and see which companies would be the best ones to consider to be part of this mutual fund that they're creating. So that helped that research. Yes, research is a significant part of the investments and mutual fund and money management, but they had to do research in many different ways. This provided them an opportunity to really collect them together, give them at scale, and the data sets that they never thought will start connecting it. So there are several of them during the 7 years, but one of them that I'm very fascinated about, that which I'm not going to take the direct credit for that one. This is the another organization, another big business unit within Fidelity did that. Customer intent modeling, extremely excellent use case. That customer might be interacting through the website, contact center, other means, email sent out, whatever the way that they interacted. These interactions were quickly brought together through a streaming and eventing architecture, very quickly brought together, analyzed, and then the intent was created in real time. The intent was identified. So if a customer was on a website and on Fidelity.com and they were going through and they immediately called. So that web logs data already has been analyzed to see what is their intent could be. Are they calling for a new product, information, or they were on the site logged in, but they couldn't find something, and because based on the activity you can tell, or they couldn't even log in. They tried a few times. Oh, so let's not try to give them any financial suggestion yet, advice yet. Let's address their login or whatever they're attempting to do. So this was amazing technology, that amazing way that all of them, we contributed with some activity. I think every business unit contributed, but this was a large undertaking. Some of fascinating use cases like that. That's what I see is the power of data will be in really connecting the dots. I think a lot of organizations have data. The data existed as long as the computers existed, right? Every interaction produces it. But what I see as significant impact now, thanks to the more compute power, thanks to more algorithms which are coming, what I see that these are all doing is to now helping us connect the dots better from every single interaction. Sure enough, that was called big data and variety. But I don't just see that it's just the data, but every interaction, every call, every email you made, every contact. Oh yes, every relationship and transactions you had. What else do I know about you outside than what you told us with a lot of data providers? This is the opportunity that I see that, and why people are excited about AI, why AI is being now, or generative AI, or future AGI and others coming in, are touted as is it's making it easy to connect and gain the value more quickly. So there are several use cases, as I said, in Thrivent too. There are several of them we need to do to enable for our marketing, some of the processes to become more automated, reduce the manual reviews, just applying machine learning with the right type of data. So there are several I see there. But one thing for the audience, what I want to say is the value of data is not in silos. The value of data is in connecting the dots so that their actionable insights can be generated, whatever form. Could be simple BI reporting. It could be just an insight somebody is doing an ad hoc analysis, or we're using models to recognize that. That depends on the question you're trying to ask, but the foundation will be the connected data, connecting the dots.
Yeah. So, taking that use case that you just provided a great amount of detail to, right? I've got to imagine then, you're serving that data up to that agent that's about to take that call or is in them just starting to take that call. So they see this whole interaction where there's like a handful of lines says login failed, right? Or something to that extent, right? And so to your point, I'm not going to waste your time asking you, hey, do you want to, look at this mutual fund? Have you considered a checking account, right? Oh, I see you're actually having issues with your login. Let me help you with that, right? Did you also, does that also get served up to the IVR or probably, okay, perfect.
Yes.
So you could kind of guide them and route them to the right tree, if you will, or right branch, if you will.
Correct. And even call routing would happen based on what is the intent and that was a massive effort across Fidelity. And then again, everybody, there are certain parts of the business have certain parts of Fidelity really own that one where others contributed. So I think that gives us even with excitement about AI, I think a lot of people think if I can just use this large language model to go and do much better search and summarization. Sure, you gain better summarization, better search. Maybe you can use that to feed the next classic AI model or ML model to do a scoring which will help further. But what it's telling and what's the Fidelity use case, if we go back to how the Fidelity's personal investing have been successfully able to do that, and now more modernizing it, as I hear from my past colleagues, is that you need an entire system to be. So there should not be just a data strategy or analytics strategy or AI strategy for the company. It should be the business strategy infused with these things. Meaning, you can't gain value from any of this, anything that you're talking data or analytics or AI individually. It's rarely that you get direct value out of this one. Not by in its, even if it's a direct value, it's not by in itself. You have to combine multiple things. So in the case of, if I'm generating a best recommendation model, so recommendation model is the most common thing that everybody is doing, next best action and next best recommendation. Okay. All right. NBAs, right? If you create NBA, great. You created wonderful NBA and you know that efficacy of that model is really good. The model works because you tested and you're monitoring it. But how do you put this in front of, right? You need to say, we're only going to do it in the digital channel. Okay, wonderful. So your digital channel, whether it's mobile or the website, need to have that orchestration capability, journey orchestration capability, and also capable to determine when to present this offer. Okay. And in order for this offer to be generated, you need to have all kinds of different interactions to be brought together. So you need to have the process of this whole process. Okay, what to offer need to be that your marketing and your compliance and your risk, everybody's coming together. So a lot of this is both systems entire system need to be established for the data or insight or analytic to actually show the value. I mean, that's the case with any business. No business operates in isolation, that just marketing can't work because marketing is dependent on some. So I think that's what people should not forget is you're experimenting. You thought you created wonderful models, but they're not going anywhere because You haven't thought about integrating this into the business process itself. That's what I see, that a lot of data professionals, I think we all learned hard way that it's only part of the equation. Even a wonderful insight and a wonderful data, the greatest model is only a small part of the entire equation. To make it needs to be part of the system.
No, I mean, that's an excellent point. And, one of the things that I feel like I get confused around at times, or, and when I speak to other folks, right, about, big data or data lakes or data warehouses, right, and this new, I guess, revived trend in the market with a focus on AI, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I was part of the trend in 2017, 2016, when virtual agents really hit, and everybody was focused on creating these virtual agents, and they continue to progress and get better and better, right? But I never fully understand, is it better to have this very large data lake that everybody basically subscribe, you pull data to, and that's where all this, and you have copies of your data all over the place? Or is it best to leave the data where it is and determine with your data governance process, this is my system of record, this is where I know the customer details, I'm always going to this data source. I'm going to this data source for something else, and really I have that data governance in place, right? Or do you pull it all in, right? And you're constantly pulling it in, but you don't really know where the data is and where it came from and the source. And then you start thinking about GDPR in Europe, and some of those rules are starting to come to the United States, right? So I still get confused. What is the best approach? Or at least what's your opinion on that?
Let me get my crystal ball for a minute, Mark. So I think that's what I need to, right? I think this has been, as long as data systems existed, there has always been an argument about centralized versus federated. Okay. I mean, it was never called federated previously, centralized versus decentralized. The answer is not one versus the other, it's an and. Here is where I see it, and here is where I think most of the data foundations. Now, this, I think I probably already mentioned, is connectivity of the data. Data need to be more connected and integrated in order for it to really gain value holistically. Does the data have value right within the context it's doing? Absolutely. So that's why the answer is only centralized. Answer is not only leave everything where they are. I mean, for any company, we have human, right? I mean, companies are run by humans, functions are run by humans. Humans typically cannot think everything across they might think the adjacent process that they think about. We are all wired to think like that, to see what's next to us, what is on this side and what is on this side. You're not looking at the entire ecosystem. So in order to do that, so bring the data which is going to have a value in connecting together into what's called the lake. In the past, it was data warehouses. It was very difficult to bring it because you had to model every scenario already and structure the database in a way that it can support many of those things. And that's why data warehouses never succeeded. Unless, and again, the compute power was difficult. So you will say, I can't do everything. Let me pick and choose what I want to get. Then you instantly lost the value of picking and choosing. So again, maybe more actionable suggestion that I'll give, and what I learned over the course of this couple of decades in the data space is, you do need to bring the data thanks to the newer architectures, modern architectures, which is schema on read. So meaning, you're not spending a lot of time to bring this data together. Data duplication is also not a significant challenge because the value that you can generate by connected data outweighs the little bit cost of storage, which has become, it's the compute which is actually the challenge, not the storage. So what I would still suggest is that operationally, marketing need to have their own marketing operational analytics, see how the campaigns are running right now. How many campaigns are you running? So whatever you need to see as you're driving the car, you need the dashboard really showing how fast are you going, how much temperature is, and those things. But what is the performance over a period of time of this? Is there a problem with everything? No, that when I'm driving, I don't need that. So every operational, every business area need to know what's happening in their case. I think that kind of a data, they need to have it. They need to have capabilities to both create the data ready for whatever reporting and analytics they need to do in the place. I think that's absolutely necessary. But you're only creating this common data environment. Let's call it, let me use the word common data environment. Whether you do it in the lakehouse architecture, whether you do it in a different architecture, doesn't matter. But there you're saying it's okay, just publish me data. Don't do anything. Don't pick and choose it. I'm not going to do any ETL to that. Rather, you just send the data. Then I'll look for what data is telling us and leave it. Just connect them enough so that anybody coming to this to subscribe to it. So you're doing analysis in marketing. You said, you know what? I need to see what is the historically how this was and what is happening in the customer interactions that they call the servicing center. Or what has been their experience in a different part of the business. Now you're instantly connecting and said, okay, here are the ones that I want to target now with this kind of experience and this kind of life events happen. Now I want to go after. So this is what is needed is you're bringing the data together into a more centralized architectures, which is much easier today. Pipelines, creating data pipelines, publishing and subscribe architecture. And I think most of now, anything in the future, you see AI or anything is going to count on that one. They're not trying to go and bring that. So I think I see is the answer is and you need both centralized capability as well as federation. Consumption need to be more and more federated. I think it need to happen in the areas. A centralized team doesn't know marketing. They understand enough to know what data sets are. So the marketing need to have closest to them the analytical and insight capability, what they want to do with it. So I think that's the nuanced answer these days. And thanks to the latest architecture, modern architecture, with any of the platforms out there, don't want to necessarily mention all of them, but I think that's possible to get best of both worlds.
Yeah, and that definitely makes sense, right? And that's kind of what I keep hearing. There's not a one answer fits all the scenarios, right? And it really comes down to your data strategy, right? And overall data governance and what you're trying to achieve, right? Do you need this data in real time? Can it be delayed a certain, for a period of time? All those things I think come into consideration. So that's fantastic. All right, switching a little bit, right? To gears just a little bit, skills, right? So, there's a big push, right, in the market, right, that do you really need to have a computer science degree or a math degree or, all these, more complicated degrees, if you will, to get into the data and AI world, right? Or can you, grow up in this world or, is there a certain skill or capability if you were to hire someone new, someone fresh out of school or fresh out of high school or wherever it might be? I mean, what types of skills or, are you looking for, right? And maybe those are certain technology skills, understanding certain tools, but someone brand new that's looking to get into data and analytics, what are some of the things that you would encourage them, the skills you would encourage them to build, right?
That's a great question. I think that evolved significantly, right? You needed computer science degrees. You needed coding to be your as a separate skill set that you acquired, technical skills that you acquired. But if you see what's happening is, even in the high school, kids know how to code because coding has become like an extension of your language. Right? So Python coding, they want to just go and do this very basic app creation. They're knowing how to code, meaning coding doesn't mean technology kept changing, languages kept changing, but people are getting understanding of how to code, meaning how to tell a computer about solving a problem. Now, AI further took that to say that they called it now generative AI particularly generative AI called it prompt engineering, which is just asking questions, meaning you need to be analytical. You need to have a good command on asking questions. So this is a soft skill. This has nothing to do with, right? can you ask the right questions to now gain what you need to gain from all of these models available? It's based on the question you're asking is how it can answer, because it can it can possibly answer everything, but the same exact question asked in this way versus this way will yield a completely different outcome and a result. So I think a good way of that, that intellectual curiosity and being able to ask the right questions, being analytical and problem solving, and the mind about the basic understanding of how to break down a problem. End of the day, coding is nothing but break down that problem to now you're applying a syntax just like the language it is. So I think that's what is important. I mean, but it's not only one type of role, right? But the roles are evolving, that the hard charging coding is still needed. Create some complex data pipelines and create some complex models, you still need it. But less, and a lot of that, I think we are hearing that now more and more of generative models can actually generate the code. Okay. So you need that. You still need a stronger technical skill in a more of a next generation languages like Python. And then there are more languages to come in that, which are much easier and less structured than the previous languages of C and C++. You needed really, such a level of structure and functions and everything that you need to invoke versus there is more free-form languages like Python, which makes it easier to express more English plus some coding. 4G plus English together is what the new languages are, right? So I think that's what is needed, is you need to understand that. So you need a set of data engineers that we are strong in the coding aspect of it, but for them also more and more of analytical and problem solving is becoming a very important, not that they're in a back room doing it. And the whole slew of new roles which have not been even defined, like the prompt engineers and the data labelers and those other things. These are all the different skill sets now that I would see will be evolving. I think it's people with diverse backgrounds are the ones that which will be able to easily get into data analytics world and use it.
Yeah, no, that's very helpful, right? And staying aligned to that topic, right? The skills. As you hire experienced people into your organization, they're going to have a mixed background on the tools that they use, right? And I always, I went to one of the cloud conferences a few months ago, and I walk into where all the booths are and all the partners are of this cloud provider, and there's tools all over the place for data analytics and AI and data lakes and different databases and everything else. As someone in your roles you've had in the past as chief data officer and chief analytics officer, how do you pick the right tools, right? But also keep the people happy, right? Your team happy, because they come in with I often see a perception that this is the best tool and this is the tool they want to use, but you might not have that tool in-house, right? So I'm always curious how someone in your position manages that and makes the right decision for both the corporation as well as the people, to keep them happy and productive.
So I think the difference is from a tool jockey to more of an engineer that who understands the concept and applies. So I think that's the big difference right now. And there is another reason why you can't be a tool jockey or attached to one tool or one platform. Is everything is evolving so fast and they're changing. It was a long cycle of releases that one version of Oracle 8, another 4 years, you're good, right? And not anymore. It's a month later, things change. And so I think it's the fundamentals. Like, I think that's where the Python and Spark started making it to be more neutralized. It doesn't matter which tool you use. Tools we're going to be able to process through any tools. Our tools can generate the code for you. So it's the engineering mindset is what is important. So that's what we emphasize when we try to hire people is, sure, having some experience, this tool shows that you've been there, right? You've done that one and you've made the things work. How do they approach a problem? Do they have the engineering mindset to now apply the best tool in that case, not being attached to one single tool only. I think that's exactly where I think that's what is becoming more and more required is you need the foundation of an engineer as opposed to just a tool person. And the same thing is happening, as I mentioned, is as a data analytics person, you need to be first analytical and problem solving rather than just being a coder. So I think that's the fundamental nature of how things are evolving.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? I mean, that's one of the challenges I keep seeing is a lot of these tools do the same thing, and maybe there's a different approach to how they do them, but they all seem to do the same thing. And as long as you've got the right, background and understanding about what you're trying to accomplish as an engineer,
or an analyst, yeah,
or analyst, right? Whatever you might want, right?
Right.
Or whatever your role is,
right.
You can essentially get the tool to do what you want it to do. And if there's a gap, then you go fill the gap, right? But
you fill the gap with addition of coding. I think that's the big thing that's happening is it's an and. So yes, whatever the tool, you understand that. So you need to be first an engineer or analyst or whatever the role that you're taking up. The foundation of what that skill set is needed is what competencies are needed. You can go acquire the skill of this tool versus that tool easily. And I don't necessarily need to count that against anybody who's coming with a good engineering mindset but haven't worked in this particular tool. So that's an easy part. That's teachable.
Definitely makes sense. So I would not be doing my job, if you will, as the host of this podcast if I didn't ask you about AI, right? And give you the opportunity to share some of your thoughts on AI and where you think it's going and where you think it is today and some of the pluses and minuses, if you will. I mean, it's always in the news, as you know, right?
Right. Again, I can give my perspective. I don't think anybody is qualified to really talk about AI completely. Even the people who are in the OpenAI and everybody, they can only talk about their version of what they're talking about.
Yeah.
So let's put it this way. AI has been around for a very, very, very long time. By the way, 1960s is when the AI principles and the concept of AI has been around. But even if you look at it, I mean, leave the generic AI conversation to what machine learning and models and the classic AI, let's call it, now it became classic AI, right? The modeling, statistical modeling has been around for a very long time and in use and in production, producing results. A lot of risk calculations, a lot of pricing calculations, a lot of propensity models, a lot of recommendation engines. These have existed now for 2 decades at the least. Even in the insurance companies, some of that concepts were deeper even 40 years ago because you're trying to model through the mortality and morbidity based on the whole set of data to now determine a set of rates so that you can put them in the right risk one. So I actually have been using this for a very long time, I mean, I would say. But I think from there to that kind of a models which are more doing a certain method to be applied against a smaller sets of data to more this generalized models, right? These foundational models are more generalized models now trained on so many billions of parameters. Now they're becoming more general purpose. So models were applied to very specific purposes against a set of data connected to general purpose models, which are created on general purpose. Now you could ask them specific purpose. That's the difference I see that evolving is the modeling techniques and where the models were applied, the AI was applied to is to solve specific problem with the specific data, not with the generalized, not trained on generalized data. It is trained on specific data. I think with obviously broad capabilities of generating the next content, not only answering a question with what is the risk score to more simple insights and responses that the previous AI models could do to generating learning from that content, generating it. I think that's where you can see that. I don't know. I mean, again, I would not be just sitting here if I know exactly how this is going to evolve. But for sure, this is going to be integrated into everyday's life, right? you're either creating your content or you're summarizing it quickly, and you wrote a paragraph and essay and say, you know what, I know the concept of this one, but I don't think I'm expressing it right. Hey, ChatGPT, can you refine this for me? So that's one way of the usage side of it. But these models now being able to, because they can generate the next set of models beyond just the generative AI coming is, they can actually make the next system do a task. So now you start talking about more of that science fiction type of things, which is not science fiction. It's the true automation, true ability to, the human in the loop is going to reduce to more monitoring as opposed to taking the next action. Even with the generative AI, human has to be in the loop to provide that, take that output and then provide it back to wherever it needs to go to. Now you're going to create more layers of automation around that this output you came from. So for instance, you went through all the medical records for particular patient and then come out with a identification of a diagnosis or a risk, because that's important for the insurer to now go and provide what the risk rating is and now provide an insurance policy, either deny it. All of that, after that identity summarization, it's all manual today. So now the models and a combination of systems developed around it will start making it within the businesses to have that entire system getting created with it into physical world. Beyond the digital world, it's going to start going into physical world. Because now, I mean, robots have existed, but they were also very hard programmed to do certain things to now these generalized models. Again, there is a lot to come. I've been recently reading some articles around how this is going to fundamentally change it. I see that it's not a fad, it's not a phenomena that somebody can say this too shall pass, but rather I think this is a way of doing things to come. That's how I see it.
Yeah, and there just seems to be the need for the human plus AI, right, working together, right? And
it will be, though. It will be, right. Yeah, it will be an augmented for a long period of time, but the amount of how much human involvement needed, now a lot, to it might reduce. I mean, again, self-driving cars are coming for the last 20 years. No, the last mile, I think this is where I think a lot of people get worried that now robots will take over the world, AI will take over the world. No, but it will do a good 90% that, but still that 10%, the last mile, or connecting the bookends of that one, you might still need a human or something else to look at that.
Agreed.
History has shown that nothing gets completely ever automated in every single thing that you can do. You needed some intervention.
Yeah.
So that interventions will be still required. So, but it's clear that amount of human touch that is needed for everything is going to reduce more and more.
Yeah.
Progressively over a period of time.
Yeah, and as a human, it'll make you more productive, or can make you more productive, right? If you use it the right way, right? So
we as humankind have always determined, when the machines came, everybody thought nothing will happen, nobody will have any other job to do. Look at this. So there is going to be that next thing where people evolve, people learn. You're now creating a different structure, different way of doing things that now humans will become. Yeah, you're right that it's a human productivity has gone up with all of this evolution. I think AI is going to do the same thing.
Agreed. Well, I mean, we're coming to the end here. Is there anything that I should have asked you, right? Or anything that, jumps to mind that you think our guests might find interesting?
There is a lot to ask, but all I say this is, I think as I learned through, let's call it, again, bruised elbows and scraped knees and everything, that it's important to keep in mind that you as a data professional, AI professional, or whatever you're excited about, yes, do it well, what you need to do, but also clearly be aware of what the outcome, what's the impact that it's doing. And if it's not providing the impact, I think you need to change. I think there's something, it's not about blaming that those business areas are not able to leverage it, meaning you need to change the fundamental strategy of how or what you're doing. might not be exactly the same thing, or maybe you're missing it. So I think applying that outcome orientation is going to be really important. And as the people who are just entering this world, I think engineering mindset and analytical mindset, I think this is it. I think every role, I think one of these two it will fall into, because engineering mindset is not limited to engineers. I think this has become much more broader. The engineers with a very specific machinery to the tools to harness engineering mindset is something to think about, and something it's solving a problem. To analytically to see it is how do you do it. So whether you do more product roles to think about how to create value out of something, to how to create. So I think it's important to have that analytical mindset, engineering mindset. And for leaders, it's all about the outcome orientation, not about the data ecosystem itself, not about the best AI you're applying and then you're wondering why the value is not coming, but it's about value orientation and outcome driven. And it's all going to happen only with the partnership and only with the stakeholders, because no single process can generate value for a business. Otherwise, businesses don't need all of these roles and all of these people.
No, that's great insight. That's fantastic, right? I really appreciate that. So, Sravan, thank you very much for joining us today. I really appreciate your insights and everything you shared with us. Very insightful. Thanks again, and I hope our listeners enjoy.